This video discusses child sexual abuse. Please take care when watching. You can find a list of support services at child-safety.gov.au. Ang recently started work at a youth centre that provides after-school activities to children and young people. He is the Program Activities Manager, and Selena, the manager of the youth centre, is training him. He knows staff and the centre's leadership have a responsibility to keep the children and young people safe. Selena tells him that one way leadership does this is by making sure they understand and apply the national principles for child-safe organisations. This includes understanding and managing risk. Selena explains risk is the possibility of something going wrong in the future. A child's safety risk is anything that increases the chance of a child being sexually, emotionally, or physically abused or feeling unsafe in any way. Risk management reduces the opportunity for this to happen. One of Ang's responsibilities is to develop a child safety risk management plan for the centre and for the activities he will run. Selena helps Ang to go through 6 easy and essential steps for managing risks. In step 1, Ang must understand the risk context, the general level of child safety risk of the centre. To understand the risk context, Ang needs to consider internal and external factors, such as the spaces they operate in, who they work with, what activities they run, and what rules are in place. Selena says external factors might be laws or reportable conduct schemes. For example, differences in local requirements for child safety might make the child safety risk higher or lower. Internal factors include activities the centre engages in. For example, those involving a mix of younger and older children, the culture of the centre, how online and other forms of communication are managed, or its recruitment and complaints processes. Ang sees that the risk context is different between organisations, and this makes each child safety policy and risk management plan different. He also sees he can't do this alone. Asking questions and talking with others, including children and young people, will help him understand all the centre's child safety risks. Ang moves on to step 2. Identifying risks. Ang must ask himself, what could happen? How could it happen? Where could it happen? Selena explains risks can come from many areas. These include situations or places where adults and other children and young people can be alone with a child. Engaging children and young people in private conversations online or using other forms of communication. Recruiting staff who do not value children and young people or see child safety as a priority. Not having strong child safety practices or policies. The age of a child, language barriers, and cognitive ability. These vulnerabilities can all make it less likely for children and young people to speak up and be believed. Ang now knows how to identify the risks. For step 3, he needs to use the risk matrix to calculate the risk ratings for each of the risks. Ang needs to think about how likely the risks are to occur. Would they be rare, unlikely, possible, likely, or almost certain? He then needs to work out the consequence of each potential risk. These can be minor, moderate, or major. Knowing the likelihood and consequence will let Ang work out a rating for each risk. on the risk matrix, this might be low, shown in green, medium, shown in orange, or high, shown in red. By understanding the likelihood and consequence, he can act in a way that lessens the risk. That takes us to step 4. Selena says that depending on the risk rating, they must now try and work out ways to prevent or reduce the risk occurring. Selena shows him the Child Safety Risk Identification Checklist. This will help them see what actions the centre can take. For example, they could do something to lower the risk. In step 5, Selena shows Ang that risks don't disappear and must be constantly tracked. Staff must meet regularly to review their risk plan to see if there are any changes or new problems. Staff also need to regularly check that the risk reduction plans are still in place and working. The final step, step 6, is to communicate the risk management process and plan. This could include to staff, volunteers, children and young people, families and carers. Ang smiles as he realises that this is what Selena has been doing all along. Just like Selena and Ang, we can all do our part to keep children and young people safe. The National Office for Child Safety is here to help.